You are back in the shop with me today, guys. And this week on the channel, I'm going to teach you how to calculate your shop rate to maximize your profits. Stick around. I'm Stoner Erickson from Erickson Design Company, and let's build something. Ta-da! So let me just start this video by saying, this is the way that I kind of put my stuff together as I was starting. And if you're getting into woodworking to make money, that's the wrong way to go about it. If you're getting into woodworking because you love it, no matter what, the money will come. Now there's a lot of other variables like advertising and tool cost and material cost and all kinds of other variables that we'll kind of go over, but the true and trident way to think about it is if you love woodworking, the money will come. If you're talented and you put the time in. And if you're not talented, put the time in and you'll get talented. You know, I see these videos where people are like, oh, I built this farmhouse table and I just bought the basic low kit from Home Depot and I built it. Yeah, if you're out doing it, do it. You know, you don't need the fancy drum sanders and CNC machines. Lord knows I did it for many years with all of that fancy stuff. And you kind of learn tricks and tips throughout the process when you don't have those larger tools. But as you progress, you're going to need to get bigger and better tools, better table saws, better chop saws, band saws, sanders, and that's just kind of a part of calculating all of your tools into your shop rate. And that's the most important thing for me. The value of my tools has to be equal to the value of my talent and my time. So if you notice right above my head right here, there's an $80 per hour. Now that's my shop rate. Now that includes all of my tools, that includes all of my talent, but that's what I charge for an hourly rate just for me out of my shop. That encompasses the $20,000 in tools that I have, and at that $85 an hour shop rate, that's what I feel comfortable expressing my talents and getting my products out. If you are a woodworker and you're below that, let me tell you something honestly, you're not doing any favors to other woodworkers because you're devaluing what we have, all the years of experience that we have and all of the mistakes that we've made and the $5,000 tables that we've screwed up and had to eat those costs. So this should be your benchmark. If you're out there woodworking, this $85 an hour should be your minimum shop rate. Now you should be at $100 an hour really, but because this is a part-time thing for me, that's what I'm comfortable with, and my shop rate for me working in here just alone, it's whatever comes out of this shop is $85 an hour. Now that doesn't include materials, that doesn't include fasteners, that just includes my expertise and all of my tools. And with that said, my XCarve for instance, so this was around $2,500. Now I don't calculate the time while this is running because it's a little robot that's running for me. So I don't calculate that into my $85 an hour shop rate because it's another set of hands. I'm not paying this machine money to do this, and I've made 10 times that $2,500 off of this machine. Now cutting all the wood, all the glue ups and all the extra stuff around that, I charge for that. But when this is running, then I'm doing something else and charging someone else for some of that time. So I do not charge for while this is carving, only while I'm setting it up. And I think that's fair, and that's fair for me how I feel about it. Or another inventive way for me to keep my costs at a minimum and keep my speed up so that my shop rate isn't overwhelming my customers is I come up with things like this Ritter board here. This is a clamping board. Now this is a larger one. I saw Izzy Swan build a little one. I used to work on one of these. It was metal in a cabinet shop 20 years ago. This is set up for cabinet doors. So I can do, you know, up to 18-inch cabinet door on this, and most cabinet doors are standard around 12 inches, you know, by the 22 inches high. And then I can kind of set this up, hit my button, it clamps it down. I can go about doing other things, and that way I'm not charging while this is holding a clamp versus pulling off all of my big bar clamps, setting them up, gluing them up, you know what I mean? Like taking the time to kind of set that up and glue up every individual cabinet door is not cost effective in the long run. So having this Ritter board to make cabinet doors, it's freaking awesome. That's a way that I can kind of streamline and pass that savings down along to my customer. If you want to see how this Ritter board works and how I use it, there's a video in the link in the description below. They're actually really fun and easy to make. These pneumatic clamps were like 35 bucks. And it just hooked to my air compressor, and this saves me a ton of time and makes gluing up super easy, and I can do multiples of the same thing over and over and over again. And when I'm batching out cabinet doors, that's the ultimate goal, is to do things quickly so that my shop rate makes sense to my clients. Now, space is another thing that we're not calculating in here. The rent for this shop. Now, this is my home garage, so I just lump it into my mortgage. Now, I do write off a little bit the shop for my business, but having these flip-top tables, this bandsaw, and then the drill press hanging upside down, it saves a ton of space, right? And then when I need the drill press, I pull it out, I flip it over, and I bring it right back. Same with the edge sander here. Now this is normally always up because I use it all the time. Below it is the planer, and when I need the planer, I flip it up and move it out. So unique uses of space is important as well. That way I have multiple tools in a small footprint so I can do larger things. And that also goes for my Inventables XCarve CNC machine. I built this flip down table for it. I built a dust shroud for it so that the dust stays inside. It keeps the noise down. And then when I'm not using it or I need that extra space, it's easy for me just to slide it out, pull the pins, and then I can just easily lower it down. And now I've got all of this extra room. So when I was building those giant 10-foot couches, that way I have all of this extra room down here for glue ups. You can actually see my glue up marks in the concrete right there, which is kind of interesting. But unique uses of space is important because that way I don't have to rent a bigger shop. Now, upgrading my tools is important. I got a Jet 1632 drum sander because I built these unique gates that had like a window in it, super hard, and I didn't have the drum sander, and I spent about 7 hours sanding those with a belt sander and an orbital sander, and it wasn't cost effective to pass that expense along to my client. It just didn't make sense for me when I could just buy a bigger tool like the Jet 1632 drum sander. But because I bought that sander, the little vacuums that I had for dust collection wouldn't work, so you have to upgrade. So I upgraded to the 1250 CFM Dust Right dust collection system. It's in the attic. You turn it on, super quiet. And this, for all of my tools that roll out in the shop, that planer, it gets all the chips. For the Jet 1632 drum sander, it wouldn't be able to work right without this. This gets 95% of that dust straight up, that fine dust. So upgrading for different projects is important. You know, it's important to use the money that you make and reinvest it back into your business, and that way your business will grow and you'll have the right tools to do higher production and higher kinds of things. Here's the Jet 1632 drum sander, and I'll tell you what, this thing has saved me a ton of time, a ton of headaches. You can hang out another 16 inches so it can sand tabletops and vanity tops and large cutting boards. I mean, this thing is so versatile. I'm not sponsored by Jet, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but this is a great tool, and I'm gonna do a review on this because I've had it almost a year. I beat the hell out of it, and I just absolutely love it. But calculating in fasteners and screws and spray paint and epoxy and wood glue and all of those things, you need to be doing that. You need to be calculating those in, and then I add a 5% overage to what I'm building in cabinets and furniture, and that 5% gives me a little bit of wiggle room and a buffer. Don't get me wrong, I've eaten up that 5% many a times because I had done my calculations wrong on the front end, and now as I'm a lot older, I kind of have easier ways to calculate that and make sure that every screw I'm not paying for, the client's paying for. In addition to utilizing space, I put a router table at the end of this Delta table saw. It was just an empty spot, and by adding that router table there, it gives me 2 tools for the same amount of space, and having a big dust collection for my router when I'm doing a lot of moldings and those kinds of things. I like to make my own moldings. It's really fun. That's what this is all about, is having fun and being challenged. But adding this little router table to the end of my dust collector, I could buy an expensive one, and I will one day when I can upgrade, but for now, this works. And the main thing is making it work with the tools that you have, and make sure that you're proud of the product that you're putting out. And by doing that, the people that buy your product can tell those things. They can tell that you put a lot of love into it. Another way that I really justify my shop rate is that everything I need is at the ready. I don't waste time digging through drawers, looking for stuff. If I need it, it's right at my hand, and I save a lot of time doing that. My sanders, my sandpapers, my chisels, all of this stuff I use on the regular. I have a benchtop little router right here that has a quarter round over on it. I use that for 90% of my projects so I can soften up edges, and it's right there. I don't have to set up the big router. I just grab it, run it around things. So as for speed, getting the price out to where people can afford it and I'm still making my shop rate, having everything I need very accessible is really important. Also, coming up with creative ways to generate multiple sources of income is also important. I have my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, go over and subscribe right now. It's monetized, so I do make a little money off of that, which is really, really nice. Also, merchandise for my channel, my hats, my t-shirts. You can check that in the link in the description below. Having an Amazon page to sell my products like my magnetic bottle cap openers or my wooden spoons I'm designing right now. Those are all passive sources of income that can come out of the shop when the shop's not super busy with clients, and they can just kind of be generating money for me along the way. Now, I never want to come to the shop door. Never want this to happen to me. I never want to walk up to my shop door and go, oh, I got to go in there. I never want that to happen. I always want to walk up to my door and be like, oh, I got to play in my wood shop. That's how I want to feel. So luckily I'm old enough to know that I don't take projects that are going to make me feel that way. And I don't work with clients who are going to make me feel that way. This Etsy and Pinterest and all the evolution of the last 10 years, 12 years of, oh, this takes 3 days to do this. No, it doesn't. Oh, can you build it out of plywood? No, you can't. Oh, can you build it out of construction lumber? No, it's a beautiful table. You know, I've learned to kind of recognize when there's a housewife that's like, oh, I saw this waterfall table, which I hate, by the way. I'd never want to see a freaking waterfall table ever again in my life, but they see one and then they say, oh, I want that built. I'll give you 300 bucks. That's like $1,000 coffee table. You know what I mean? So knowing the value of your products is important. The main objective here is to set goals for you and your client. Then set expectations to reach those goals, and then your job is to manage those expectations to reach those goals. So when someone comes to you with expectations that aren't realistic, you need to be aware and say, no, that's not realistic. Otherwise, it'll bite you in the butt on the back end, and you won't make money. You might make a little bit of money, but if you're going from the $85 an hour and you do your calculations at the end and you're making $15, $20 an hour, that's not worth it. Now that's happened to me on a few projects, but they were so much fun. I just could not get into it. I just could not be a part of it and want to be challenged and all that stuff. And the nice part is once that first one, and I kind of aided on the first one, the next one went faster and I was able to increase back up to my $85 an hour, which is so important to me. 85 bucks an hour for a small two-car garage wood shop is your benchmark. You should not be lower than that. You should not be charging lower than that. That's your hourly rate. Stick to it. Well, it's getting hot as a hoot in a handbag and a hay bale and a ho-how. Down here in Texas, it's hot no matter what. I keep the fans off sometimes while I'm doing these personal videos. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, comment below. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. I'm Stoner Erickson from Erickson Design Company, and we built something.